In the Castelvecchio Museum in Verona, a small portrait hangs behind reinforced glass. The boy in the painting is maybe 12 years old. He has red hair, flushed cheeks, and a smile so wide his teeth show. His eyes lock onto yours. He's holding up a piece of paper, a crude stick figure drawn in what looks like a child's hand. The painting is from 1520. The boy has been staring like this for 500 years. Most Renaissance portraits don't look at you. They gaze past, serene and distant, as if you're not there. This one doesn't give you that option. The boy thrusts the drawing forward. He wants you to see it. He's waiting for your reaction. The longer you look, the stranger it gets. The smile feels too big. The drawing feels too simple for a boy his age. The blackness behind him, no landscape, no room, just void, makes it impossible to look anywhere else. Something about the image doesn't sit right. It never has. In 1520, when Giovanni Francesco Carotto painted this portrait, children in art didn't look like this. They were small adults, composed, serious, draped in expensive fabric. Or they were cherubs, soft, idealized, glowing with divine light. They didn't grin. They didn't show teeth. And they certainly didn't stare directly at the viewer while holding up a scribbled drawing like a child showing off refrigerator art. The boy's mouth is open. His lips pull back from his teeth. His cheeks are flushed, the kind of redness that comes from exertion or excitement. In the 16th century, this kind of expression carried social weight. Open-mouthed laughter was associated with drunkenness, madness, or the lower classes. It signaled a loss of control. Dignified people, especially children of means, judging by the boy's clothing, didn't pose this way. But Carotto painted it anyway. He rendered every detail with technical precision. The texture of the boy's hair, the fold of his collar, the flush in his skin. Then he placed this uncontrolled, almost manic expression inside a formal portrait. The painting refuses to let you observe it passively. The boy locks eyes. He holds the drawing at chest height, arms extended, presenting it like evidence. He's not posing for you. He's performing at you. The effect is immediate and uncomfortable. Most portraits from this era allow the viewer to remain invisible, a distant observer. This one makes you complicit. The boy sees you. He's showing you something. You have to respond. The drawing the boy holds is primitive. A large circle for a head, 2 dots for eyes, a curved line for a smile. Stick arms and legs sprouting directly from the head, what child development specialists call a tadpole figure, typical of children between 3 and 5 years old. But the boy in the painting looks closer to 12. And the drawing isn't just childish. It's specific. The figure's smile is wide and goofy, mouth open in a grin that mirrors the boy's own face. The proportions match: oversized head, minimal body. It's as if the boy has drawn himself, or the drawing has drawn him. This creates a loop. The painting contains a painting. Both subjects grin at the viewer. One is rendered with the skill of a master. The other looks like it was made in minutes. The contrast is jarring. Carotto's brushwork is so precise you can see individual strands of the boy's hair. The stick figure, by comparison, is almost absurdly crude, just a few lines, barely a sketch. No Western. Painting before this one had depicted children's art. Carotto was breaking new ground, but the effect isn't charming. It's dissonant. The realism makes you expect realism everywhere. When the drawing appears, flat, simple, wrong, it reads like a glitch, something that doesn't belong. And yet Carotto painted it with the same care he gave to the boy's face. Every line of the stick figure is deliberate. The placement is exact. This wasn't accidental. It was a choice. Giovanni Francesco Carotto was not a famous painter. He worked in Verona during the early 1500s, part of the Veronese school, but he lived in the shadow of greater names. Andrea Mantegna had set the standard for the region decades earlier. Carotto's own student, Paolo Veronese, would eventually surpass him in reputation. Carotto occupied the middle, skilled, competent, but not celebrated. His surname, depending on regional dialect, translates roughly to carrot. The boy in the painting has bright red hair, Art historians have long suspected this is either Corotto's son, Bernardino, or a satirical self-portrait of the artist as a child. The visual pun was a Renaissance signature move, a way of marking your work without signing it outright. But the pun goes deeper. By depicting a child's terrible drawing within a masterwork oil painting, Corotto was making a point. If a trained artist can render bad art this well, every crooked line of the stick figure perfectly imperfect, then where does artistic value come from? Is it a skill, subject matter, intent? The painting functions as satire. It mocks the pretension of high art by placing low art at its center. The joke would have been immediately apparent to 16th century viewers. They called works like this capriccio, whimsical, humorous pieces that played with expectation. Audiences would have appreciated the skill required to paint something so deliberately crude. They would have laughed. But 500 years later, the joke has curdled. We don't laugh. We analyze. We diagnose. The boy's smile, once funny, now feels frozen. The drawing, once clever, now feels off. The painting's humor has been buried under centuries of interpretation, and what's left is unease. Look closely at the bottom edge of the paper the boy holds. Just above where his fingers grip the drawing, there's a small detail most viewers miss. An eye. Not a stick figure eye. A real one. Anatomically correct. Rendered in profile with shading and depth. It's tiny, easy to overlook, but unmistakable once you see it. The iris is detailed. The lashes are visible. It's the kind of drawing that requires training, observation, and skill. This changes everything. The stick figure isn't incompetent. It isn't the innocent scribble of a child who doesn't know better. It's a performance. Someone involved in making this drawing, whether the boy or Corotto himself, could draw realistically if they wanted to. The crude figure is a choice, not a limitation. The hidden eye functions as proof of intent. It tells you the joke is intentional. Corotto is showing off by showing restraint, demonstrating mastery by creating something that looks amateur. The stick figure becomes a statement. I could do this properly. I'm choosing not to. But the eye also destabilizes interpretation. If the boy drew the stick figure himself, the eye suggests he's more capable than the drawing implies. If Corotto drew the entire thing, then the boy becomes a prop in the artist's satire, his expression orchestrated rather than genuine. Either way, the sincerity of the image collapses. Nothing here is innocent. Behind the boy, there is nothing. No landscape, no architecture, no decorative drapery, just black, flat, infinite, oppressive. This wasn't the norm. Renaissance portraits typically included background elements, gardens, mountains, and interiors that placed the subject in a world. Those details provided context, status, and depth. They let your eye wander. Corotto strips all of that away. The black void does two things. First, it eliminates distraction. There's nowhere else to look. Your attention stays locked on the boy's face, the drawing, the smile. Second, it creates psychological intensity. The boy exists nowhere. He's suspended in darkness, spotlit, isolated. It feels theatrical, even confrontational. This technique became more common in Mannerism, the art movement that followed the High Renaissance. Mannerist painters rejected idealization in favor of distortion, exaggeration, and emotional tension. They used stark backgrounds to create unease, to make viewers focus on the psychological state of the subject rather than the world around them. Corotto was working right at that transition. The precision of his technique still belongs to the Renaissance. But the emotional content, the raw, unpolished expression, the disorienting void, signals something darker. The painting doesn't want you to be comfortable. It wants you engaged, unsettled, aware that you're being watched. The black void isn't just a stylistic choice, it's a trap. Once you're looking, there's no way out. On November 19th, 2015, armed robbers entered the Castelvecchio Museum. They worked quickly, professionally. Within minutes, they had removed 17 works of art from the walls, including Corotto's portrait. The thieves were connected to a Chechen warlord who collected stolen art. The paintings were smuggled out of Italy. For months, the portrait was missing. Interpol issued alerts. investigators tracked leads across Europe. Then, in early 2016, Ukrainian authorities found the stolen works buried in a forest outside Kyiv. The paintings had been wrapped in plastic, hidden underground, covered in dirt. Kuroto's boy was among them. The paper he held, the stick figure, the hidden eye, had survived burial. The smile hadn't changed. Not during the heist, not in the darkness underground, not when investigators pulled the plastic-wrapped bundle from the soil. The painting returned to Verona. The museum installed reinforced glass and upgraded security. The boy now hangs in a more protected location, his smile visible but guarded. In the years since the theft, the painting has gained a reputation, not just as a curiosity, but as a survivor. Something that endured violence and came back unchanged. Art crime specialists still study the heist. The operation was sophisticated, the theft coordinated, but the thieves treated the paintings carefully. They wrapped them. They hid them in conditions that, while far from ideal, weren't destructive. Stolen art is valuable only if it survives. The boy in the painting stared into a grave. Then he stared out of it. The smile that had unsettled viewers for 5 centuries proved more durable than anyone expected. In 1965, a British pediatrician named Harry Angelman visited the Castelvecchio Museum. He saw Kuroto's portrait and thought he recognized something. Angelman had been treating 3 children in England, all nonverbal, all with severe intellectual disabilities, all with a distinctive symptom. They smiled constantly, even when distressed. Their movements were jerky, puppet-like. They couldn't control their laughter. When Angelman saw the painting, the boy's stiff posture, the wide grin, the stick figure that seemed to reference puppet movement, he believed he was looking at a patient, not a portrait. He went on to describe a neurological condition, initially calling it puppet children, after the painting's alternate title. It was later renamed Angelman syndrome. The medical interpretation spread. The painting became famous in pediatric literature, used as a teaching tool and a historical case study. Angelman syndrome is a genetic disorder caused by a deletion on chromosome 15. Children with the condition often display frequent smiling and laughter, movement difficulties, and developmental delays. But the medical theory ignores context. It overlooks the hidden eye that proves artistic intent. It disregards Kuroto's satirical reputation and the Capriccio tradition. It treats a Renaissance joke as diagnostic evidence, projecting modern categories onto a 500-year-old image. The painting doesn't depict a syndrome. It depicts a joke about art. But once the medical interpretation entered the conversation, it became impossible to unsee. The smile that 16th century viewers found amusing now reads as symptomatic. The stick figure that was meant to mock pretension now looks like evidence of developmental delay. The painting hasn't changed. Our relationship to it has. This is why the image feels off. Not because the boy has a condition, but because we're looking at him through incompatible frameworks. We see satire and symptom at the same time. We see a joke that stopped being funny and a diagnosis that can't be confirmed. The painting traps us between interpretations, and neither one feels right. Kuroto created a visual paradox, a masterwork made of bad art, a portrait that performs instead of poses, a joke that survives its punchline. The boy has been holding up that drawing for 5 centuries. He's still waiting for someone to understand what he's showing us. We're still trying to figure out if we should laugh or look away.